Have you heard Project 2025? It's become a hot button topic in the presidential race, even during the debate.
What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad.
So here to talk about that is the leader of Heritage, which has organized this initiative, Kevin Roberts. Kevin, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brett.
Okay, first of all, did Donald Trump, former president, ever endorse this project before it happened? Was he a part of the formation of Project 2025?
No to both, because that's not how we can operate as a public policy organization. We have to be candidate agnostic as a 501c3. And so Mr. Trump is not only telling the truth when he says that, he's also reminding people that we all operate in our lanes. Those of us who are think tank leaders are in one lane, campaigns are in another, political parties are in another, and we've been doing this since 1980, and every single one of those election cycles, Brett, since 1980, we have offered policy briefings to every candidate across the political spectrum. This is what we do in think tank world, is create and cultivate these ideas.
For a conservative think tank to have the Republican candidate, distance himself from something like Project 2025, which is 922 pages of possible policy, isn't that a bad thing?
It's a bad thing if we forget what the reality is, which is that Project 2025 became the target of the radical left. Why did it become a target of the radical left? Because what the radical left can't have an intellectually honest conversation about, they attempt to destroy and to mischaracterize. Literally everything you ran in the intro in that interview of the senators and the representatives is untrue about Project 2025. It's a menu of conservative boilerplate options. I don't think there's a conservative I've met who would say in those 922 pages, I'll agree with everything, but the left can't run on ideas and policies because they're destroying the American dream, and that, by the way, is the motivation for this.
They spent a lot of time talking about it, not a lot of time explaining the details of it. It's very detailed. There is one, this is Jared Huffman, Democrat from California. He leads a task force to stop Project 2025. Apparently they're holding a news conference tomorrow. It says Trump's Project 2025, which we've talked about, is not the connection, plans to resurrect a Victorian-era law, the Comstock Act, to criminalize reproductive care nationwide. We must rectify past injustices and ensure our dark history cannot repeat itself under any future administration. Stop Project 2025. All right, deal specifically with that comment.
Totally untrue. We talk about the history of the Comstock Law and the project, and so what the congressman is doing is glomming on to a search function where those words are in there, and then everything else that follows, literally everything else that follows, is untrue. The Vice President of the United States is a liar when she says, for example, that Project 2025 wants to implement a nationwide abortion ban. Do we have a difference of opinion with the vice president on abortion policy? Of course. But let's have an intellectually honest conversation. The great thing, Brett, is that all of this targeting of Project 2025 by the radical left has caused people to go to the document, which has, by the way, been out in the public sphere for 18 months. And what I love is to get emails from left of center Americans who say, I disagree with you, but this is a great piece of work that has laid out the cards on the table for us to have a policy conversation.
It's options for a possible President Trump in the second term, but it's not that he's signed on to these specific things.
That is exactly correct. And I want to be really clear. Never before and not now has this project, which sometimes is called Mandate for Leadership in Heritage's history, have we asked any candidate to sign on to it. We can't do endorsements at the Heritage Foundation. We don't seek them. It is a menu of options that if the president and vice president, whether they're Republican or Democrat, by the way, wants to enact certain policies, there's a plan there for them.
Some of the others in here, Project 2025, merit hiring, market-based pay, dismantle Homeland Security Department, leverage State Department confirmation process, CIA accountability through new hires, EPA restructuring and streamlining. Those are bullet points. One of the things people talk about is like a scouring of the bureaucracy to make sure only acolytes who are supportive of, for example, President Trump would be inside the agencies.
That's what the left has done for 50 years. Project 2025 is the corrective to that, where we get competent people who are virtuous to go in. But let me also end with this point on this comment. When you go out and poll the specific policy positions of Project 2025, Bret, most of them are 80-20 issues. And so the left note is focusing on mischaracterizations of those ideas and the name itself. They don't want to have a conversation about the policies themselves, because when the American people learn about them, they realize they support them.
This is Steve Corbin. He writes, Trump's claim he knows nothing about Project 2025 is questionable, to say the least. The Heritage Foundation's website notes Trump fully embraced 64% of its 321 policy reform recommendations during its 2017 to 2021 presidency. Since Trump implemented 64% of Heritage Foundation's manifesto, and knowing he's not a policy wonk, odds are great if elected he will embrace the latest version of Project 2025, lock, stock, and barrel.
We are not presumptuous about any elected official, whether it's through Project 2025 or the daily and hourly work that we do at Heritage, will take our recommendations. We operate in service to them and in service to the American people. We do believe, however, that if you want to restore the American dream, that those policies should be enacted.
Senator J.D. Vance apparently wrote a foreword to your upcoming book. Is that true?
That's true. It's a great forward, too.
It is. And does that suggest a linkage that the Democrats are continuing to make?
Two things. It suggests a linkage between two friends. And the second thing is, the last time I checked, this is the United States of America, and people in politics ought to have friendships and work together. The left wants to disallow that because they realize that their policy record over the last 3.5 years in particular is ending the American dream.
Are you surprised by all this attention and all this vitriol around this document? Are you surprised by it when it started happening?
I'm surprised by the scope of it, to be sure. I'm not surprised that it happened. And the lesson that we learned, and we've learned loud and clear, is that when we do this again, and we're going to do it every election cycle because it's what Heritage does, that when the left begins to mischaracterize, figuratively, we're going to punch them back in the nose.
Well, Kevin, we appreciate you coming on. We'll continue to go through policy by policy and deal with the facts.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Up next.